1964 we bought this place, and we've been here 55 years now, and we used to have cattle, and we did have some issues where the wolves came in and killed here and there, but nothing that we ever were concerned about. And there were times when we'd see they made a drive and ran deer up to the corner of the sheep fence, and you could see it was in the snow, so you could see where they killed a deer right by the sheep fence. There was 6 of them we could see, but they never came and killed any sheep at that point. But then after that, we would have lambs that would disappear. And the fellow that was grading the road in the summer pulled in and he said, "Hey, a wolf just went across the road and it had a black lamb in its mouth." So we went down. We knew a black Hawaiian, their specialty sheep, had twins in the morning. Well, she only had one. There was one gone. But we still never were really worried that anything would happen like it did. But then we did start bringing in the dogs. We got Shep and Buckler first, and we had them 7 years. There's a cornfield right here, or a hayfield, and they had a path going over there. All summer they had a beaten down path going right to that woods right there. They never had a scratch on them. You would have seen blood, but they were keeping those wolves away. And but we never apparently knew how many were there. They kept multiplying. And then 2015, Mother's Day, and there was a thunderstorm the night before, and those dogs are bothered by thunder. Shep, Buckler, and Shiloh. And apparently Shep went down in the barn and left Buck on the porch, and we know the wolves call them because we'll be there, and all of a sudden they'll start barking, and we haven't heard anything. I went across the woods and I just followed in the trail there, and I thought, well, maybe somebody put a trap there and he got caught or something. Well, I went about 100 feet, and then there were big patches of white hair. Well, as soon as I saw that, I knew this was not going to be good. I actually had our grandson Riley with me, and we followed the white patches of hair, and then I found his blue collar, and then maybe 20 feet ahead, he was laying there, his head, his spine, one leg and a foot. They ate everything else. That's all that was left of him. He was just such a great pet too, and he did his job, and we really loved that dog. We were so sad. Our daughter cried, and we just really felt terrible. So then we started tying Shep up at night. We did get a hold of the USDA, and they did set out traps, but they never did catch any wolves or anything. August, he just was so upset being tied up at night. It was him and Shiloh, then we turned him loose. And September 15th, Shep wasn't here. He wasn't here. And then we really got worried. Shiloh wasn't here either. And we couldn't find her. Well, then we started looking everywhere, and then we were driving on the road here, and this was a cornfield, and we went just out the driveway to the right a little way, and all of a sudden I said, "Stop." We could see all the corn knocked down in a big circle. So we got out and just went in the ditch, and there was blood there. We went right to the edge where the trees are, and there he was laying. They had eaten him partly up, and about 3-4 feet away his heart was laying half eaten. And we believed that the neighbor had a logging truck, and they would always go out 3-4 in the morning. So we think that maybe the logging truck went by and it scared them off. Then Shiloh, we couldn't find her. We didn't see her for like 2 days. We didn't know where she was, but then she came, and she had been bitten on the back because they try and cut the cords on their legs and immobilize them. So she was cut there and chewed up, but she was okay. So we just went to the vet and got antibiotics for her, and we kept her tied up for about a month, I think, to make sure. But then we didn't know what to do. We thought, well, what's next? Now they killed the dogs. The USDA did not put the fence up. Well, they just put it across the front road at that time with the flagerie at that time because there hadn't been any depredation with the sheep. But they kept that up till winter, and then they took it down, and we didn't have any sheep killed. Memorial Day the following year, 2016, They came in early in the morning hours because they usually come in probably 3 in the morning when we're sleeping. So we get up in the morning and go back to check the sheep. And we had these 20 bighorn cross ewes that were very valuable, 1,500 each, and they're all going to have twins within a few weeks or a month. And we go back there, and 3 of them are standing at the gate, which was unusual because they didn't do that. Well, we got a little closer and we could see blood dripping on the necks of some of them. And so we opened the gate and they came running out. Well, then there was a dead one here and a dead one there. There were 17 of them then laying dead everywhere. They ran them up against the fences. These sheep do not jump fences. But it didn't look like a whole lot of damage. But when the USDA skinned them out, that's what they looked like underneath. That they slashed them with their teeth and everything.
They never took a mouthful to
Never
eat.
ate a mouthful. It was just horrible walking there. This one they had slashed her neck. But we kept walking, and everywhere we went a little further, dead one, another one dead. And some of them were just laying there in pain. They weren't even dead yet, so then they had to put them down. They just had to do something because they were in such pain. They're saying, well, they kill, but then they come back and eat them. Not always, because they put out 2 cameras and left some dead sheep back there, and they never came back for one mouthful. So that isn't always true. Maybe sometimes they do, but this pack doesn't. And in order for them to kill all these 17, there had to be a number of wolves. They're saying there's 14 to 16 in this wolf pack here, because they did the same thing again now. They didn't eat them all, except they did take the lambs. So, of course, they must have taken them back to their den for their young. But it just is very, very sad. These were very valuable sheep. They had some bighorn blood in them. We lost 3 years of lambs from them. That would have been almost 100 lambs. And that was a lot of money that we have lost there. And it's just very stressful. Now we had the depredation again now. And we went down there in the morning, and they were right, 200 feet below our shelters by our pond. And we had, these are the Katahdin sheep now that are meat sheep that got killed this time. And almost all of them have triplets. We had 3 of them up in the shelters because they had lambs in the cold rain, and we brought them up to let the lambs get warmed up and everything. And the day before, we thought, well, we'll put them out. It was the day before Mother's Day. So we'll put them down there because it's nice, and they just wouldn't come out. So the one came out with triplets. She was our biggest ewe and one of our nicest ones that we liked. We loved going down there to check on them, and there that big ewe was by the gate. You could see she was bleeding and dripping, and her 3 babies were laying dead around her. She was standing by them. And we're like, oh. She didn't even want to go out that one. She wanted to stay in, but we needed to get them out in grass. If we had just left her in one more day, she wouldn't have been one of the ones. So her babies were all dead. The best mother ever.
And I think she fought with them because she was standing right over them lambs, and she was just torn up. The vet had to put her under because she was just torn up like crazy.
Yeah, he euthanized her. And then we went, and a white Katahdin she dumped in the pond, and she was standing there, which they don't go in the pond, and her back was bit, and then her leg was slashed. And then we brought her up. They're very tame. And the ones that were dead hadn't had the babies yet, so they had triplets in them, and they're just huge, those sheep. They couldn't run, or they were just laying fairly close together. And so then the white one, they got out of the pond and brought her up. And then there was another one that they had slashed across her behind area above her bag. Her lambs were dead and gone. They had a shoe for because they weren't dead yet. So then we found 7 lambs that were dead, spread all around. The vet came, and then the one that was going to have triplets, he just gave her antibiotics and sprayed, and the one they had torn her whole backside open. You could put your hand in there. And we sprayed her and gave her antibiotics and everything, and she is alive yet, but we don't know if she'll ever be able to milk because they ripped open above her bags.
And then we found three dead lambs all in one spot where it looked like they were carrying them lambs and jumping the fence.
And they left them there, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been really stressful now. Every day you go back there and you count, but you're worried. You never know what you're going to find. We do have the double electric fence up. We have a radio that comes on at 8 at night until 6 in the morning. And then we have a scary man, which they use in the sunflower field. He's bright orange neon, and he has a siren in the backfield that's solar. But you still go back there and you count, and you got to make sure you got them all, and then you don't know what you're going to find because...
Well, the one year we went back there to check on them, and I says, oh, there the sheep are at the back end of that field. And she said, no, the sheep are over there. So I looked over there, and the sheep were there, and then I turned and looked, and it was the wolves. They were inside the fence, and they were looking at us, and they turned, and they jumped the fence.
Yep, the next morning, she had triplets. We did take one away just to give her a little break because she was injured. So I'm bottle feeding him. The babies were fine. She's got a scar on her back. You can see where they bit her. She's a white one, and then her leg you can see too.
She was standing there, and they had torn her bag, and the milk was dripping. Yeah. Blood in the milk was dripping out. I mean, it was terrible to look at.
Only imagine the pain they went through. It had to be really terrible. There were 3 black ones in the group. Apparently because it was somewhat dark yet, they didn't kill any of the black ones.
Those 3 black ones were standing together way away with their necks around one another. They were just traumatized like you wouldn't believe.
We brought them all up then. We didn't even put them back in that pasture. We brought them up, and they just laid there in one spot, and they didn't move, even to graze, to eat grass for 2 days, because they were just traumatized for what they saw and what happened.
Then that following night, 45 minutes after dark, our dog Shiloh, that we can't get near, came running up to the porch barking. So we went out on the porch, and we heard the wolves come back. So I grabbed the gun and flashlights, and we went down there, and evidently them wolves were in the fence already. The flag tree was up.
They came right away and put it up that day then.
And evidently some of them wolves were in the fence, because when we came with the flashlights, they started yelling like something was wrong, like they got a shock. And they jumped that fence then, and they whimpered all the way across the neighbor's field. We heard them. Yeah. So they were gonna finish off the rest of them sheep, The sheriff, Price County Sheriff, told me carry a gun with you at all times. But with that, it's so hard to carry a gun without banging it up, So a lot of times we just take the pistol along. But like I say, when we go back there every day, you don't know what you're gonna find, and that's the bad part. You get back there and you don't see the sheep right away, or the cattle. We got some cattle now too, and you don't see them, and right away you're thinking, oh boy, what are we gonna find?
Because even with the electric fence, if they want to get in, they can get in. You're not going to stop them.
Right, there's 5 foot of woven wire.
You're not going to stop them.
That's all perfect fencing, but then the electric fences on the inside, and them wolves, they can jump right over that 5 foot fence with no problem.
And they could also get under it. They can dig under it.
And people have seen them in our driveway. I mean, people have pulled in and said, we counted 9 wolves run out of your driveway. Yeah. And we've already had them to where where we pulled in like at midnight, and we got back with a truck at midnight, and I pulled in the parking lot, and they were right across in the field here. We got out, and an old male was howling, and I hauled back at him, and he answered me right back, and they circled right around this clearing and came around here and went down to the west. But they weren't afraid of us at all. Well, over 100,000, I know, over that, because these bighorn sheep, like I say, if we want to replace one of them, it's $1,500, and that's not for a full-grown one. That's for a 3-month-old young one. $1,500 if you want to replace them, and then you got to go all the way to Montana to get them. Down the road, there's a lot of lost revenue there. And like I say, now we don't know about these ewes. Next year, we might have to get rid of them. And end up with a bunch of bottle babies because of the mastitis. So you really don't know just how much you lost.
And our black Hawaiians, we get the rams out of Texas. We have to go down there and get them and bring them back. And to get good genetics, you have to go a long way to get them.
We figure we got close to $70,000 just in fencing. Because we bought the 5-foot woven wire. We bought a lot metal posts. We had a lot of big cedar posts. We rented a Bobcat with a 12-inch digger. I dug down 4 foot for each one of them posts. That took us weeks and weeks to put up all this fence, because we didn't only put fence up around the perimeter. We put fences, cross fences. As you can see, you'll see fences going all over so that we can rotate pasture. There's 11 shelters out there. One of them shelters is 48 foot by 16 foot, and the rest of them are 16 by 16 and 16 by 20, and all them shelters we built and everything. We figure easy $70,000 just in fences and them shelters. And we really take care of our animals. Most people don't grain sheep. They just give them pasture in the summer and hay in the winter to make sure that we got good quality stuff to sell. We got people that come from New Mexico, Idaho, all the southern states, eastern. We got people that come from every state, including Wisconsin. So we try to take the best care of them that we can. It's a very interesting business. That's why we continue doing it as old as we are.
It's so interesting because we raise the rams to get the big trophy horns. So you watch them grow, and you watch them and see which ones are going to get the biggest horns, and it just makes it really fun to see. And you work at breeding to get the horn genetics with the best rams you can and the best ewes also, and it just makes it more interesting.
People that are in this business say if you can get an inch of horn a month, you're doing excellent. And we get up to 2 inches a month because of the genetics we got and the fact that we grain them 365 days. Take extra good care of them, you know. Minerals is one of the most important things for growing the horns. Well, they were worth $1,500, and we got $750.
Well, they go at market value, so
Right.
They don't consider the fact that these are more exotic sheep and you're raising them for horns. They just go like with the meat sheep or a wool sheep.
They don't realize them was all young ewes that had their first babies. This was going to be their second babies. We got one ewe out there that is 15 years old, and she's still producing. So these young ewes, by now, just think of how many babies they would have produced for us. Yeah, and they don't put that into consideration, you know.
This is our farm. We've been paying taxes here 55 years. This is our land. Our sheep belong here. They have the right to be here, and they shouldn't have to be destroyed like they've been doing. The wolves don't belong here. They can be out in the national forest somewhere else, but not killing our animals.